I'm winning today. I refuse to lose. I'm winning today, 'cause that's what I choose. Winning today, got my mind on victory. I'm winning today, nothing's gonna stop me. I'm winning today, I refuse to lose. I'm winning today, 'cause that's what I choose. Winning today, got my mind on victory. I'm winning today, nothing's gonna stop me.
Refuse to lose.
Whoa, oh yes.
Winning, that's what I do.
Help me say I'm winning. I'm winning today. I refuse to lose. I'm winning today, 'cause that's what I choose. Winning today, got my mind on victory. I'm winning today, nothing's gonna stop me.
Refuse to lose.
Whoa, oh yes.
Winning, that's what I do.
Help me say I'm winning. I'm winning today. I refuse to lose. I'm winning today, 'cause that's what I choose. I'm winning today, got my mind on victory. I'm winning today, nothing is gonna stop me, 'cause I refuse to lose. I'm winning, winning, that's what I do. Oh, I'm winning, I refuse to lose. Victory is my name. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm more than a conqueror in my home. I'm winning on my job. I'm winning in my health. I'm winning in my mind. I'm winning in my family.
I'm winning.
They said I wouldn't make it, but I'm winning. They said I wouldn't be here today, but yeah, yeah.
I'm winning.
Somebody go tell cancer,
I'm winning.
please notify depression.
I'm winning.
Tell COVID-19,
I'm winning.
but most of all, let the devil know.
I'm winning.
You sure can't stop me.
I'm winning.
You can't block me because
I'm winning.
if God be for me, he's more than the world against me.
I'm winning.
I'm winning, yes I'm winning.
Refuse to lose.
I refuse to lose. Winning, yes I'm winning.
Refuse to lose.
I refuse to lose. I'm winning, yes I'm winning.
Refuse to lose.
I refuse to lose. I'm winning, yes I'm winning.
Refuse to lose.
I refuse to
grace and favor to you on this amazing Wednesday afternoon. Listen, I believe you are tuned in on the right time, on the right day. God has something very, very significant that he wants to get into your spirit. Listen, I want you to do me a favor, hit that share button, tag, text, tweet as many people as you can. And I want you to do me another favor. I want you to feel at liberty to be engaged in this virtual worship experience. What do I mean? I mean, hit the hearts and hit the like button, hit the hand claps, engage in the comments section. That is so important to me. I like to know that you're watching, that you're there, and I want us to have that connection between us. So again, I want you to be more engaged than you have ever been before. Don't forget, make sure you share this with as many people as you can, and God's going to bless you in a supernatural way. Well, let's get into the lesson for today. Let's hear what God has to say to us. Now, in today's session, I want to talk about something that I think is quite significant and I think is very pertinent to each and every individual who's watching me right now, who will watch me whenever it is that you watch me. And it has to do with processing or dealing with the emotional backlash of failure. That's right. For many of us, it's a scary word. We shriek every time we hear it because of the experiences all of us have had with failure. But failure leaves in this aftermath some very difficult emotions to process. And often we struggle because we replay over and over and over and over in our mind those instances in which we have failed. But I think it's significant to learn and understand how to properly put into perspective the pain that failure leaves even in its aftermath. I want to use as a backdrop a proverb that is very, very significant and very relevant to this particular session. In Proverbs 24:6, it says, "For a just man falls 7 times, and he rises again." It's quite clear from this proverb that, ladies and gentlemen, that failure is an inevitable part of each and every one of our lives. As much as we like to deny it, as much as we detest failure, it is an inevitable part of each and every person's life. And the reality of the matter is, when you look back over your life and you look over the courses of your life, in parallel with this particular proverb, you probably would have to admit that you have fallen or failed more times than you have succeeded. And if that is the case, and I know it is, then you are in great company. Because no one I know who's ascended to any place of greatness or who's ever done anything of an extraordinary nature has had in the history of their becoming more successes than they have failures. We've all looked back over our life and can relate and parallel our lives to the fact that we've failed or fallen more times than we have succeeded. But it is all about perspective. Most people have a tendency when they experience failure to retreat or abandon the notion that this is something they should be doing or something they could do, because for some, failure is the telltale sign that says, I should ditch this ambition and never entertain this as something, as a possibility for me. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, failure is not falling down, but rather it's refusing to get up. You're not a failure when you fall down. It's about, again, perspective. It's about what you gain, what you glean from that fallen experience, that failure in whatever area of your life. relationally, business-wise, whatever area you have experienced that failure in. Failure is not simply falling down, it is refusing to get up. Now, it's not that you can't get up, but as you land on the mat after taking so many punches, after absorbing and enduring so many hits, you said, you know what? I'm refusing to get up. I no longer choose to engage in what is necessary or required in order to experience the level of success I want. So I'm just going to take my losses and I'm going to refuse to get up. Because nobody knows more than me. I'm telling you, failure without question can be traumatizing. Not only can it be traumatizing, but it can be paralyzing. It paralyzes your efforts. It paralyzes your future attempts at trying. When you're trying, there's nothing as frustrating that when you're trying and giving everything you got, but life just won't budge. No matter how much energy, no matter how much effort you exhaust, it seems like life will not budge for you. But ladies and gentlemen, you have to muster up every bit of fervor, of drive, of zeal, of ambition that you can to always be in a posture of your life where you are willing to give it another go. Because ladies and gentlemen, what I know for absolute certainty is that you must fear regret more than you fear failure. Now I'm going to let that sink in for a moment because I need each and every one of you to get it, to grasp it, to wrap your mind around it, to cause it to be your mantra as a source of motivation, that you must fear regret more than you fear failure. Because here's the reality. At the end of your life, what do you think you will feel worse about? Failing or never trying? I can't tell you how many people that I've seen get to the end of their life and they generally begin to communicate and articulate what they wish they would have tried, what they wish they had been daring enough to attempt, what they wish they would have gone against the grain and did in spite of the criticism of people who were not willing to do the same. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there are, in all of our lives, there's some degree of fear that must be managed, that must be suppressed if we are going to progress in life and get to the pinnacle and the place of success that we ultimately want ourselves to be. Because what I want to tell you is that the grips of failure usually capitalizes on our habits of comparing ourselves to other people. Now, that is very important because you are looking around at your friends, your relatives, your coworkers, your peers. They seem to be excelling in an area that it feels like you're in neutral. They seem to be in possession of possessions that you want, and you're trying to figure out, why don't I have this? You're looking at their homes, their cars, their salaries, their statuses in life. And when you base your worth on other people's positioning in life, then you're always going to feel very miserable because you are stuck in the cycle of comparison. You're comparing who you are to someone else and what you should have based on what other people have. And maybe that's the problem. The reason you can feel like a failure is because your focus is solely centralized on other people's accomplishments, what other people are doing, what they are achieving, what they are acquiring, and it makes you feel like you're unaccomplished. It makes you feel like you have failed in life because of what someone else has and what someone else is doing. Now, it complicates the matter more when it's perhaps a peer, somebody your same age, somebody who has the same degree of education, somebody who's been exposed to what you're exposed to, and it seems like they're skyrocketing, and it seems like you're grounded in a place that is not ideal for you, nor is it a place that you intended that you would find yourself in. But the moment you stop comparing yourself and your life and your status and your stuff to what other people have, you're going to get to a place in life where you realize that sometimes you feel like a failure because your focus is distorted. Failure sometimes is a result of misplaced focus. You're focusing on other people's elevation, their promotion, what they have achieved, and you have no clue of what it took for them to get it, what it cost them, at what price did them getting here cost them. And so you're frustrated internally and you're feeling like a failure simply because you have this misplaced focus. If you would ever begin to tune into who you are, what you have to contribute, what you have to give, and decide, I'm no longer going to play the sidelines of life and feel like a failure. At this juncture, you have to make a move. Yes, you, sir, ma'am, I'm talking to you. You have to make the move right now if you're ever going to reposition your life to a place and a space where you're not getting up every day simply feeling like you are failing in life. Because here's the breaking news. Every person you see that's successful, that's thriving, that's doing something noteworthy, believe me, they have failed more times than they care to admit to anybody. Let me go on record and tell you now, I have failed more times than I care to admit to anybody. Sure, we like to highlight our successes and what we accomplish and what we achieve, but we want to push to the background. We don't want you to know how often we fail, how often we've bombed, we've crashed and burned very miserably. But the reality of it is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all. And in that case, you fail by default. Now, hear me. I would much rather fail by trying than fail by default. Means I'm not attempting anything. I'm not trying to accomplish anything. I'm just in a pitiful place. I have lost my fervor and my drive and my ambition for life. And I just lay over and I lose in life and I miss out on winning opportunities because I'm so afraid of failing that I actually ultimately fail by default. Now, this is critical because, ladies and gentlemen, every time you and I fall short of achieving our goal, you've probably noticed by now that there is this mental stupor that we generally sink into, and that is because we fall into a place of being overly self-critical. And the moment you become overly self-critical, it's difficult, if not impossible, to let go of all the negativity, which ultimately tends to drain your motivation. That whenever you set out something, you got a plan sketched out and drawn up, you got a plan of action that you're pretty sure is going to amount to some measure of success. And then when it doesn't, there is this internal self-critic. We become incredibly critical of ourselves. And we develop this negative perception of ourselves. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever you have a negative self-perception, whenever you are faced with challenges or difficulties or obstacles that you didn't expect to have to encounter, then it begins to affect your internal language. And you start saying things like, well, I must not be good enough. I'm a failure. I've never been good at anything anyway. And maybe they were right. I don't have any business trying to do something like this. I'm a failure. But have you ever wondered to yourself, why is it that some people can navigate through failure and even use their failure as some fuel to create a pathway to their life's goals, their motivations, their ambitions, and their wildest imaginations, while other people give up on their dreams and even on themselves. The reality is failure is inevitable. A just man falls 7 times. You're going to fall, but you will get up again. But your getting up again is predicated on you, on how badly do you want it, how much of what you've imagined in your head, in your heart, in your spirit, do you really want for yourself? That you find yourself in this place where you have to decide, am I going to let failure derail me, or am I going to use it to educate me so that I make a better go of it the next time around? Because it's very easy. I can't tell you how often I've experienced failure, and my first instinct was to throw my hands up, walk away for it, wash my hands with the whole notion of it. And it's appealing to go back to the familiar rather than risk forging ahead, chasing after a future that may or may not come. And my belief has been a little warped because I've experienced some failure. So now I'm not even sure that this future is really going to come to pass. But I want to tell you that you have to allow the failures you've experienced in your life to become the fuel to forge ahead to your future. I can't tell you how many times I would have given up if I just didn't make up my mind I wasn't going to let failure have the last word. I would have walked away, but I felt like I was cheating myself because I invested so much time. And I decided that if I put a little more effort in, if I educate myself a little more, if I get around the right environment, create the right atmosphere for me to succeed and achieve, then I'm going to do it. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you must be careful before you throw your hands up and walk away and decide that you cannot do it, that you use the failure as fuel. People tell me I can't do something, I do it at a greater magnitude. People tell me what I can't have, I'll come back with it in 3 different colors. Because it's the failure, the backlash of failure emotionally is predicated on how you process it, right? Am I going to allow it to be the fuel, or am I going to allow it to feed my frustration and further embellish my own negative perception of myself and say, I didn't have no business trying that anyway. I knew it wasn't going to work. I don't know why I went in that building and tried to interview for that job. I knew they weren't going to hire me. Because when you experience failure to any degree, it will warp your perception and your expectation of anything better happening and unfolding for you in your future. But I want to tell you today that you are far from through. And I want you to get that in your head, your mind, your heart, and your spirit, that you are absolutely far from through. It is far from over for you. You just have to redirect your focus. Stop comparing to other people. And I want you to focus in intently on what it is you've been gifted to do, called to do, and what you have the skill set and the mindset and the intelligence to accomplish in your life. Failure does not define you. It comes down to how you think of failure and how you approach every setback in your life. Hear me when I tell you this. Success or failure is caused more by mental attitude than by mental capacity. Now let that sink in for a moment. Success or failure is caused more by mental attitude than by mental capacity. Intelligence is less of a determining factor in success than determination or optimism. So it doesn't matter your mental capacity as much as your mental attitude does. You got to get up every day with an attitude that says, I may be knocked down, but I'm not knocked out. I might have taken a hit. I might have experienced a setback I certainly didn't have any plans on experiencing, but that is not going to detour me, derail me, or discourage me from doing what I know I am fully capable of doing. The truth is, anyone who's ever succeeded, and I want to reiterate this in your mind, that anyone who's ever succeeded at anything has failed along the way. Now, the problem is, generally, when we fail in some area of our lives, we spend so much time harping on the negative aspect of the failure instead of understanding that the more we do that, we just keep reliving the moments of defeat, and we are developing unhealthy attachments to an idea of who and what we want to be. Let me give you that again. Sometimes when we fail, we start talking about, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not resilient enough. But you spend the majority of your time embellishing or highlighting your weaknesses rather than focusing in on your strengths and learning how to capitalize on them so that the next time around, victory is inevitable for you. But you got to be careful, because when you go through failure, again, it's your language. You start saying things like, maybe my best isn't good enough. Maybe this wasn't for me. And counterintuitively, instead of doing anything to remedy or rectify your situation, you end up, hear me, demotivating yourself. Because let me tell you, what you say to yourself has greater bearing than what anybody else says. Oh, sure, what people say about you has weight. And sometimes people have said some things to me that's made me question everything I thought I knew about me. I've had people say something, and I said, well, maybe, you know what? Maybe they're on to something. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe my expectations are a little lofty. Maybe I'm shooting too high. And once you allow other people's opinion of you to become your opinion of yourself, you'll very quickly begin to be demotivating to yourself, right? And you'll sink into this place of inactivity when you should be using this moment to find another source of internal motivation. Not just quit so easily, not just walk away because one or two people told you no. For every one or two people that tell you no, there's 10,000 ready to tell you yes. If you ever convince yourself that you deserve this shot, that you do have enough of what it takes, that you are smart enough, but you'll never get there as long as you're letting your inner critic have the last word upon your life. I can't tell you how many people, in fact, me, how many times I've become the victim of my inner critic. And I want you to understand that your inner critic absolutely intends to sabotage any semblance of success for your life. The inner critic is this little voice way down inside that tries to get you to consider the fact that you should be doubting yourself. Inside of your head, there always seems to be this little voice highlighting your flaws for the purpose of wiping out your confidence in yourself. Now, whenever failure ends up making you feel down about yourself, your inner critic begins to feed off that negativity and attacks you with even more destructive thought patterns in your head. You start thinking, I'm not worthy of success. I don't have what it takes. I'm not enough. All of these things you're saying to yourself causes you, hear me, to lose trust in your own abilities. Again, people have said things to me that's made me question my own worth, my own value, my own abilities. But there's nobody that I know who's ever made me question my own abilities than my own inner critic. Who do you think you are? What makes you think you can fill that position or hold that or occupy that space? Do you know what it is to have that internal critic talking and talking and talking, and you're spending all night trying to combat it, trying to ignore it? but it's not going away because the intent, the emotional backlash of failure is to get you to a place where you start doubting yourself, where you give more attention to your internal self-critic to the point that it wipes out and dismantles your confidence in your capacity and your capability. Its sole job is to tell you what you can't do and what you aren't good enough to do and where you aren't headed in life. And it eventually starts leaving you in a place of depression. Do you know what it is to be depressed? Because it just looks like everything you're doing is failing. No matter how you try to hype yourself up. Do you know what it is to have to be your own hype man? I know exactly what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be driving in a car and saying, you got this, you can do this. Tragically, I had nobody else to impose that into my heart and in my spirit. And so rather than just rolling over playing dead, saying it's a done deal, I've got to learn how to encourage myself. I have to speak to myself. You have to speak to yourself and tell yourself, you got this. Get yourself together. You got the skill, the talent, the anointing, the education. You got the goods. You better get yourself together and make it happen right now. And I'm talking to somebody now. You've got enough of what it takes to take whatever you want out of life, but you keep allowing yourself to be paralyzed by the fear of failure or the fear of repeating cycles that will end in failure again. Now, I want you to understand that fear of failure can be paralyzing. It's paralyzing because it doesn't allow you to act, and your mind thinks it's keeping you safe from potential failing, but what it also is doing is keeping you from potentially succeeding. Let me say that to you again. Whenever you become paralyzed by the fear of failure, just the thought of failing paralyzes most people, puts them in a place of neutrality. They're not moving, they're not going forward, they're not going backwards. Sometimes failure is just being in neutral because you're covering no ground, you're gaining no territory. And sometimes what your mind does is it'll shut down. It won't allow you to act on that idea or that thought or that impulse because it's thinking that it's keeping you safe from potential failure. But in actuality, it's keeping you from potentially succeeding. Because, ladies and gentlemen, whether you found out this or not, your mind hates change. It's already developed a comfortable mode of action concerning you, and it hates change. Your mind doesn't want to deviate from that or things, even if it knows that this is good for you. So if you've been living routinely convincing yourself that you're a failure, your mind will do every single thing it can to make that your reality. That's why you have to watch your confession that's coming out of your mouth, because your inner critic is the one doing the internal dialogue, which your mind is taking its cues from. And if you keep saying things like, I'm a failure, I'll never have this, I'll never be successful, I don't know why I'm entertaining that idea, your mind is going to do everything it can to make sure that becomes a reality in your life. That's why life and death is in the power of your mouth, of your tongue. You got to get up every single day and make some decrees about your life that I may have fallen, I may have experienced failure in the past. Just because I failed does not categorize me as a failure. I'm going to get up, I'm going to glean the knowledge and the wisdom that I gleaned from the failed experience, and I'm going to use it as fuel to make a better go of my next move. It's that simple. Failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. The tragedy of failure is for you not to have learned anything from it and not to have taken that failure and repurpose it so that it produces significant, successful results in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, your every thought and word forms a blueprint that your mind and body work to make your reality. Again, that's why you have to You have to take dominion over that inner critic. That inner critic is there to convince you of what you thought you knew anyway, that you're not worth it, that you have no value, that you're not good enough. It's always there to make sure that message is being massaged through your mind, your spirit, your hearing, and your mind. And you have to be careful, because if we give our failures too much credit, we memorialize them as predictors of future failures. In other words, if all you're doing is saying, I've been failing for years, I've never succeeded at this, I've never succeeded at that, never succeeded at that. If you keep saying that with your mouth is memorializing these as predictors of future failures. And what happens is, often we over-exaggerate our failures, right? Again, just because you failed here doesn't mean you're going to always fail. You have to decree in your mind that I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to reconfigure some things. I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity so that I can structure my life, my approach, my behavior, my attitude, so that this time when I attempt to do it, success is inevitable. Let me tell you, your mind wants you to constantly relive certain failing moments of your life, but the reality of it is that doesn't serve you. Because while you're spending time reliving that and recycling those experiences and those thoughts in your mind, then it's prohibiting you from embracing something new, something different, another approach. Maybe I'll try it this way. Maybe I'll do it that way. Sometimes you can sit around worrying about the would haves and the could haves and the should haves, because they're going to rush through your mind. You're going to always be thinking about how things could have turned out differently. But the truth is, the time that you spend in this place of unnecessary replaying failures could be better spent, hear this, taking responsibility for your part in the failed effort. Now, most people don't want to hear that, because generally when we fail, we want to attribute that failure sometimes to other entities, other people. This didn't work because she didn't do her part, and this didn't work because my team got flaky and dismantled on me. And all of those things might be true, but the reality of it is, at the end of the day, you still have to survey the event and pull out the parts you were accountable for and take responsibility for what you did or did not do to contribute to that failure. Sometimes failure gives us the much needed opportunity of reflection and helps us identify key factors and key elements as to why we didn't hit our target, we didn't hit our goal, we didn't hit our mark. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're not careful, you'll spend all your time blaming everybody else for why you fail, that you'll never make the necessary adjustments you need to make in order to minimize failures in your future. I'm going to give you a moment. I'm going to let you digest that. Because the reality of the matter is, there are some things we could have done differently. There are some things that we know we should have done differently, but for some reason we ignored it. Maybe our ego, maybe our laziness, but whatever the issue was, identify that, take ownership of that, release the blame game, and say, from this moment on, I am going to be responsible for moving my life progressively. I'm going to be aggressive about being progressive, and I'm going to put my life in the best possible position so that I can experience supernatural success. Now, I need you to understand that failure isn't for the faint of heart, is what I like to call it. When you fail, here's the hard truth. It does hurt. When you fail first, I start thinking about all the time I put into this, all the sacrifice I made. I thought I was doing everything that I could possibly do to have some input and some control over the outcome. I thought I had this in the bag. And sometimes it's not an easy feat. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy feat to overcome failure, but still, you have to do it. It's a little difficult to trust again after your heart has been broken, after a failed relationship. Sometimes it's difficult to apply for another promotion or another position after you've been passed over the first time. I'm not saying it's easy, but you have to. Because if not, then you've allowed failure to determine your position in life. I don't even know who I'm talking to, but there's somebody that's watching me that has put their lives on hold because of a failure that occurred, and now you've lost the will. You've lost the will to try, to be. You've lost the will to become, because you've taken such a hit from failure that it won't even let you see yourself in a better future state. But I want to tell you this day that you still got more life left to live. The moment you put into perspective that a just man falls 7 times, you got to get back up again. Life is about falling down and getting up. I don't care what they tell you. Oh, every day you're going to be on cloud 9. Every day you're going to be winning. That is not the case. Life is about falling down and getting right back up. Yeah, there are some things that will knock the wind out of you that may take you a little longer to get up from, but at the end of the day, failure is not about falling. It's about refusing to get back up. And once you make the determination in your heart and your spirit that no matter how hard life comes at me, no matter how hard life knocks me down, I am going to get back up again. When we learn how to rebound, we learn how capable we really are. I'm gonna let that sink in for a moment. See, because you don't know how resilient you are until resilient is what you have to be. And there's no point in your life where you have to be more resilient than after a failure. Because for some people, failure is a signed permission slip that says you can be excused from life now. This didn't work. This didn't turn out like you wanted to go. Nobody's going to blame you from walking away. But I want to tell you, I want to look you in your face and tell you, you've come too far to walk away now. You're too invested to just throw it all away. Don't you allow life to make you sign the permission slip and say you're excused from living, you're excused from life. You have to keep pushing, keep moving. You don't learn until you learn how to rebound. You will not learn how capable you are. Sure, you're going to fall. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, kids learn how to walk. Kids learn more about walking from falling than they did from walking. Think about it. When you were a kid, you fall, you had kids, you had grandkids, you'll watch them attempt to walk and fall. Attempt and walk and fall. Attempt and walk and fall. Out of my kids and grandkids, not one of them made the decision, you know what? I'm just going to crawl the rest of my life. Since I've fallen, I tried to walk once or twice and I fall. I get up, I fall again. Forget this walking. I'm going to just decide to crawl through life. No, you learn more sometimes from the fall than you are doing from the walk. And I want to tell you that you are going to have success in your life. No question about it. But the reality is that failure is a part of that equation. It's a part of the equation that most of us wish we could eliminate. Well, all of us wish we could eliminate. I wish I could have eliminated it. But it's not until you look back in retrospection and then realize that I had to fail then because I didn't have this right. I didn't have the right perspective about this. Failure is a necessary equation for not success, hear me, for sustained success. Not just, I succeeded at this. No, I want to be able to have sustained success in my life, but you're under false pretense if you think you're going to succeed and experience no failure in your life. Never let success go to your head and never let failure go to your heart. I'll rewind that and give it to you again. Never let success go to your head and never let failure go to your heart. I know you're going to have some successes in your life, but don't allow that to cause you to have an inflated ego. Don't allow that to make you talk down to people or treat people any differently because they're not necessarily on the level that you're on economically or whatever measuring marker that you're using. But never let failure get to your heart either. You got to process it and say, I failed. But I'm only a failure if I don't learn from this. If I don't go through the vestiges of this failure and pick out this and take this out and say, okay, I can do this better. I need to change this. I'm going to use this moment as education that's going to be responsible for my next elevation in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe it was Abraham Lincoln who said that my greatest concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with failure. That's my question to you. I don't have to ask you if you failed. I know you have. I don't have to see your plans or your resume. I don't have to know much of your history to know you have failed. The real question is, are you content with the failure? Or are you going to use the failure you've experienced and say, I'm getting ready to give life all I have? I'm getting ready to go harder in this season than I've ever been in any other time of my life. My future depends on it. The future of my lineage, the future of my heritage depends on me not being content with failure. I'm going to take this failure and I'm going to allow it to be the fuel I need to get the kind of future and the kind of success that I know I am fully capable of. Let me tell you, you're more capable than you realize. Let me be the one to tell you on this day, you have more going for you than you even recognize. You are more than capable of acquiring, of achieving, of obtaining, of possessing a success-filled life. But it's all about putting failure in perspective, not allowing it to haunt you, to hover over you, not allowing it to define the rest of your life. A just man falls 7 times, but he rises again. Let me look at you and tell you to rise again. Doesn't matter how low you fall, and doesn't matter how hard you hit the concrete. Rise again. The life and future you want is just ahead of you. Well, I'm out of time for this session. I sure hope and pray that you have gleaned some nuggets of wisdom and insight, something that can use in a very practical and applicable way to your life. And I hope that your perception has already begun to change, because trust me, failure wants to leave in this aftermath some emotions that if you don't identify them and properly relegate them to their rightful place, it will mess up any future endeavor that you ever go after and that you ever attempt to do. But I want to tell you, nothing is impossible for you. You just have to believe that you got what it takes to get it. Well, my brother and my sister, after hearing the word of God, maybe there's someone out there, in fact, I know you're out there, whose heart has been touched by God through the word, and you're wondering, what must I do to be saved? Well, my brother, my sister, I've got great news for you. Today is your day of salvation. Salvation is even nigh you, says the word of God. What do I need to do to be saved? All you have to do is confess with your mouth Jesus Christ is Lord, and believe in your heart that his Father, God, raised him from the dead, and he is now seated on the right hand of God, making intercession for you and I. At this very moment, God is making intercession for you. And if you're watching and you said, that is me, I want you to put right there in the comment, it's me. And I'm going to pray very specifically for you. If you're receiving Christ this day, if maybe you're watching and you're a backslider, and you have been challenged, convinced, and convicted by the word of God, that today is a great day for a turnaround. Today is a great day for a fresh start. And if that's you and you've received Jesus Christ in your heart and you're a backslider, but today you're coming back, restoring your relationship with Christ, just put in the comments, it's me.
Or maybe you're watching this thing and you say, Pastor, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, but what I need is a church home. I need a man of God. I need a place to serve. I need a place to be submitted and committed to. If the Spirit of God is leading you to this place, it doesn't matter what city you're in or state or zip code or area code you reside in. The only thing that matters is that you receive Jesus Christ and you are receiving this as your church home, as your church family. There's an email address right here at the bottom of the screen. I want you to take full advantage of it. I've got staff on standby right now. They're not only praying for you and with you, but they are waiting to help further facilitate your next steps. Now that you have received Jesus Christ, I want you to know the Bible says that the angels in heaven rejoice over one soul. Not only is heaven rejoicing this day, I want you to know we are rejoicing with you, my brother and my sister. And let me say to you officially, welcome to the family. Well, beloved, this is our global giving experience, and boy, am I excited about it. When you're a child of God and you walk by faith, you not only get excited about receiving, but you get very excited about any opportunity God presents to you to be a giver and to sow. I tell people all the time, I don't make a living by what I get. I make a living by what I give. I create the life I want by being a giver. For it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. And as we're preparing today globally to honor the Lord in our giving with our substance, I want to challenge every one of you that are watching me today. I want you to prepare what we call here in our ministry our corporate seed offering. That's a $42 seed. And I want you to plant it in the ground by faith. It's a seed that expedites return. It's a seed of double. It's a seed of replenishment of all those things you lost, according to the 42nd chapter of Job. So I want all of you to covenant with me today. I want you to partner with me while you're watching this, or those who are watching the replay, or whenever you would watch this. I want you to release by faith a $42 seed offering today and watch how God miraculously blesses you. Well, Bishop, if I don't have that $42, does that exclude me from the giving process? Absolutely not. Get that out of your head. It's for those that would hear, that can respond and obey that. But if you say, Pastor, I don't have that seed, but I have a seed that I want to put in the ground, I want to challenge you to get the very best seed that you have on this day. And I want you to present it unto the Lord, and you're going to see the blessings of heaven overwhelm you like never before. The giving means are right here at the bottom of the screen. Find one that's most convenient for you, and I want you to choose that one, and I want you to give it by faith. I want you to thank God in advance for the harvest that's coming your way. If you choose not to give electronically, there's a mailing address right at the bottom of your screen as well. Get a stamp, a money order, cashier's check. Put it in there. We're going to pray over it, receive it, and pronounce heaven's blessed over your life. You can't be God giving no matter how hard you try. Keep on giving. Heaven's ready to give unto you. Well, my brother, my sister, I hope that you have enjoyed the Lord on this day. I hope you have enjoyed receiving the word as much as I have enjoyed teaching and releasing this word to you. Let me say a thank you to all of you who spend your Wednesday afternoon with me. Thank you. Those of you who take part of your lunch break, those of you who take some of your break, and those of you who even pull over the car and watch this midday Bible study. I want you to know I am incredibly grateful for your support and your commitment to this ministry. Now, I need you to do me a favor. There are a lot of people, perhaps your friends, family, who did not have the opportunity to watch this today. Well, guess what? I want you to tell them to tune in tonight for 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's right. I want you to be an evangelist for me. I want you to call as many people as you know. If this has been a blessing to you, I want you to reach out to as many people that you want it to be a blessing to. And I want you to tell them to tune in right here tonight, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. God's going to do something Amazing. Don't forget, if you have not, please make sure you are connecting with us on all of our social media platforms. Don't forget and make sure you go to all of my social media platforms at Henry Bolden, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I want you to subscribe and I want you to like. Thank you so much for all of your comments on this day. Please know that I'm going to get to look at each and every one of them, and I'm going to respond to them. Those of you who have questions or any prayer requests, all of those things, I want you to send it to me. I want you to know that you and I are bonded together. We are connected. I love my cyber church family, and I pray for you on a daily basis. Well, I'm out of time for now, but as always, in part, and always remember that things can change for you at any moment. I'll see you next week.